Hello everyone, this is Code Ode. Welcome back to a new and exciting video. In this video, I want to show you how to create a DualListBox component using VueJs and Typescript. If you don't know what this component does, well, it's pretty simple. It allows users to basically move data between two lists. We have the left list and the right list. The left list is usually called source. This is basically the list from which we are choosing items. And the right list is usually called destination. This is where we are basically saving the items that we want. This component is commonly used when we are dealing with large sets of data. For example, a large list of user permissions, right? It's much easier to use this component and display all the permissions and be able to move from one list to another. So the idea is pretty simple. Right now, I'm showing the group list, but this component also allows flat list. So if we click on some items, for example, from group 1, then if we click on this button, we can move them to the destination list. And you can see that this has been updated. The left list only has that group 1 with item 1, and the right list has the same group 1 but has item 2 and 3. If we want, we can select entire groups. So let's move this back. We can select everything and move it to the destination. We can select everything, let's see, and move it back. We can select everything and then select none. So this is basically what we are going to create. And one more thing that we can do, we can also search, so label, to make our lives much easier. So basically, this is the component that we are going to create. So let's get started. So the first thing that we have to do, obviously, is to create our VueJs application. So open up your terminal window and then write this command, npm create vid at latest, and then press enter. We want to call this DualListBox. I want Vue, I want TypeScript. So cd DualListBox, npm install. This is gonna take a bit, so let's wait for this to finish. Nice, it is done. Now we can open up this in our code editor. So code, let's close this, open up the terminal, and then npm run dev. And let's see what we have. So open up this URL in the browser. So basically this is the fresh VueJs application. Okay, so now the next thing that we need to do is to clean up this VueJs application. So let's see, we have this app.vue. We don't need these styles. We don't need this. We don't need this. Okay, let's go to components, hello world, delete. Let's see, let's check styles.css. We don't need anything from here. And this is all that we need to do. So let's give this a test. Hello, save it. Let's go to the browser. Nice. Okay, now we can start working on our DualListBox component. So open up your code editor. We are in app.vue. In our components folder, let's create a new one, DualListBox.vue, like this. So script setup. We want template like this, and this is gonna be long ts for TypeScript. Now, whenever you are creating a VueJs component, the first thing that you do is to think about the API. But first thing first, let's bring that component in our template. So what is that we actually need for this component? We need some source data. So this is gonna be like this. We need some destination data. So this is the list on the left side, and this is the list on the right side. We need a way to tell this component that we are using group mode or not. So let's see, group mode. And then we need some kind of event for when data is moved from one list to another. So let's see, transfer, something like this, right? Now let's create some dummy data for this. So let's see, const group data like this. This is gonna be a ref. Make sure to import this. And this is how the structure looks like. So we have group. This is like for the first group. Let's see, group 1. And then we have items. So basically we have an array of objects like this. And for the items, we have an array on objects too. But we have label. This is going to be item 1. And maybe value. This is going to be something like 1. So let's copy this item like this. This is going to be item 2. Let's do the same once again. And this is going to be item 3 like this. So value 2, value 3. Now we need some dummy data for the flood list. So const, let's see, data, flood data like this. Ref once again, make sure to import this. And let's just copy this from here like this. Nice. Let's format this a bit better like this. Okay. And of course we need a destination. So const destination like this is going to be an ref, which is by default has an empty array, and we need that transfer. So const transfer, this is going to have source. This is the updated source list, which is going to be an array of any type, and then destination, once again, an array of any type like this. We simply do console source and destination. And one more thing that we have to do, you already have it, long dot is equal with ts for TypeScript. Nice. Okay, so now we can say group data, destination. We start off with group mode, so true. And for the transfer, we have that transfer function that we have created. Nice. So this is basically the API for our DualListBox component. The next thing that we have to do is to actually start working on this component. Okay, so open up your DualListBox.vue and let's define all the data that we have decided to use for our API for this component. So we start with const props, define props. For now, I want to go the easy route and do not use TypeScript. We will add TypeScript later on. So I want source, destination like this, and I want something like group mode like. And then we want to define the emit. So emit, define emits like this, and this is going to be just one, which is transfer. Now, what we need to do for the source and destination data is to add a new property to each item object. And this property is called selected, so that we can keep track of the items that have been selected or not. So let's do something first. Const source like this. This is going to be a ref, so make sure to import this. And we say, let's see, props source like this, const destination, props destination. And let's create that method for initializing our items. So let's see, function init items like this. This is going to take an items array of any type, and we want to pass that group mode. Let's see, let's pass it like this. Okay, and this is going to be a boolean. So what we want to do is say return items dot map, and then we have the item, and let's process this item. If group mode like this, we want to do item items, and then item items like this, map. So we map to all the items of a group. So we have the it for the item, and then we simply say with the structure that it object, and then we say selected false. Now, if we are not in group mode, we say item is equal with, we destructure the item, and we do selected false like this. And of course, eventually we want to return the item. So let's see what is the issue. Like this. Of course, we have to use this notation in order to return an object like that. And this has to be item. Nice. So we can go back to our source and destination refs and simply say init items like this and pass that prop. Init item like this, pass that prop, and then pass the group mode for both refs. So props group mode. Nice. And I think we can do a console log. So let's see, console log source that value. Let's go for the first group like this, save it. Let's go to the browser, refresh, inspect console, and you can see that we have that group, and you can see that it's a proxy object because this is how VueJs works under the hood in order to keep track of the reactivity. And you can see that we have our group 1 and all the items. Nice. So now that we have this, the next thing that we have to do is to think about how would we want to structure this component. Now let's think about the structure of this DualListBox component of view. We know that we have those two lists, the left side and the right side list, right? And then between them, we have those transfer buttons to move data from one list to another. So we can see that we have two main components. One for the lists, I want to be reusable for both places, and those the component for those buttons. So let's create those two components. So this is going to be, let's see, listbox.view. So this should be view like this. And let's script long ts setup. Okay, and then we want the template like this. Let's just write listbox. Let's listbox like this. And then we have those transfer buttons. So let's call this transfer controls.view. And let's write transfer controls. Nice. So let's go back to our DualListBox.view. In our template, let's add a div. This is going to have a class of DualListBox like this. So box. And let's bring those components. So list box like this. And then we have transfer controls. And then once again, we have the list box for the right side list. Okay. And we need to import this component. So import listbox from listbox.view, import tran. We have to fix this. So this is going to be transfer controls like this. Make sure to write that name correctly. So transfer controls like this. Nice. And we can add some styles. So let's add the style block. This is going to be scoped. And for the DualListBox class, so let's see, DualListBox. I want the display of flex. I want flex direction to be column. I want align item center. Then I want a gap of 1 rem. Now let's go back to our app.view because I want to add some styles right here too. So let's see. Let's add a div with a class of container, and let's take this DualListBox component and move it within this div. So let's see, container. This is gonna be a padding of 50 top bottom and 30 left right, and then I want a max width of 700 pixels, and I want a margin of 0.8 auto for the x axis. Nice. Save this. Let's go to the browser. Nice. So we have our left list box, we have the transfer controls, and then we have the right list box. Now, the next thing that I want to do is to actually work on this list box component and break it down in more manageable components. So let's do that. So first thing first, let's define the props. Define props like this. So this is gonna be let's see, list for the actual data, and then we want group mode, and this is all that we need for now. Okay, now let's think about it. Our list box component is made of three main parts: the search, the actual list, and those buttons at the bottom for all and none. So let's create those three components. So let's see. Let's call this list box search. Of course, we don't need this anymore. Let's see. So copy paste. Let's rename this to list box list, the actual list. And then once again, list box. Let's see. Controls like this. Nice. So let's go back to our listbox.view. And let's define the template for how this listbox components structure. So we have a div which has a class of listbox, and then we have another div which has a class of listbox. So list dash box dash search dash wrapper for the this is like a container for our search. So listbox search like this. Make sure to import that one, and then we have another one. So list dash box dash list wrapper this. So this is gonna be list box list like this. So make sure to import this one, and then the final one. So div class list box list. Well, not list. This is gonna be controls dot wrapper like this. So list box controls like this. So make sure to import it, and let's define some styles for this. So this is gonna be style like this and scoped to this component. So we have that list box class with 100% display. This is gonna be flex direction column. Justify content, I want space between. Let's see, I want a border of 1 pixel solid, and then E, 5E, 7EB, like this. And I want a border radius of 0.5 rem, and then overflow hidden like this. Okay. Now let's start with this one. So for this, I want flex shrink 0. So let's fix this. So flex shrink 0. I want a height of 2.5 rem, and that is all we need for this one. Let's move to the next one. So once again, I want flex shrink 0. I want a height of 300 pixels. I want a max height of 300 pixels. So this is like the max height. And of course, I want overflow on y-axis of auto so that we have the scroll. Okay, and now the final one, like this. And this is going to be, once again, flash shrink 0 with 100%. And I want a height of 3 grand like this. Save it. Now let's go to the browser, and this is how it's actually looking right now. There's one more thing that we have to do. Let's go to our DualListBox.view, and what we need to do right here is to actually write a media query. So media screen, and let's give this mean width, let's see, 48 rem. So DualListBox class, I want flex direction row. All this to be responsive. You can see that right now this is looking just fine. We have the left list, the transfer controls, and then we have the right list. Now let's go back to our listbox.view. And the next thing that I want to do is to actually work on each one of those components from this listbox component. Okay, so let's start with the listbox search component, our first component from this listbox component. So let's start with the template. I want a div, and this is going to have a class of list dash, let's see, box dash search like this. Then I want a simple input. This is going to be type text. Let's add some placeholders, search items, and then I want to define an event key like this. And this event, it's going to be such, and we want to define that function. And let's close this input. So let's see, const image like this, define image, and we only have one search. Now let's define this const search. This is gonna take the event, and it's gonna simply do init search and then e.target dot value like this. But this is not all that I want to do. Then I want to define some styles. So define the style block. This should be scope like this. So we have that list dash box dash search class. For this, I want a height of 100% and a border button of 1 pixel solid and the same color. So E5, let's see, 7 EB like this. Okay. Now let's style that input. I want a width of 100%. I want a height of 100%. Padding top bottom 0, 1 rem for left and right. Font size, I want 1 rem. And let's see, border none like this. And outline none. Okay. Now let's style for the focus state. So input focus like this. And I want outline none like this. There's one more thing that I want to do. Let's go to styles.css. Just remove everything from here if you haven't done so. And let's target all the elements. And I want border. Let's see, border. Border. Let's see if I can remember that that CSS property that we need. So this is gonna be border sizing. This is gonna be border box. So let's see, not border but box sizing like this. Okay, and I want margin 0 and padding 0 for all the elements. So let's go back to our listbox.select.view. I think we are done. Save it. Let's go to the browser, and this is basically our search component. And what we need to do next is basically go to our listbox, our listbox.view, and let's define that search right here. And on search, define a ref. Let's say search ref like this. Make sure to import that one. So const on search, this is gonna simply do, it's gonna take the search string, and we can go with maybe query. This is gonna be a string, search.value query.trim like this, so that we remove all the white spaces. Nice. Now, given that we are searching, we can work with a list, right? We need to work with a filtered list. right? Because we want to filter the list based on the search. So let's define a new method, const. Let's see, filtered list. This is going to be computed. So computed like this. Make sure to import this. So if props group mode, we want to do something. Otherwise, we want to do something else. So for the for the else condition, I want to say return props data props list filter. Then we have the item, and I want to say item dot label dot to lower case like this includes. So search dot value dot to lowercase like this. Okay, but there can be a situation when the search string is empty. So if search dot value is an empty string, I simply want to return props at list. Okay, and now for groups, return props list dot filter. So this is going to be group item like this, and I want to say group return group item dot items dot filter. So item, and basically we want to do the same thing that we have done here. And for groups filtering, I basically want to bring all the groups that have items with a given label that we match for our search. Okay, nice. And now that we have done this, I think we can move to the listbox list component and work on it. Okay, so let's start working on this listbox list component. And we need to define some props. Obviously, we need the list data, and this is going to be filtered list, the one we have defined, which is a computed variable. And of course, we need this group mode. We always need it to know if we are dealing with groups or not. And now let's open up this listbox list.view. Let's define those props. So const props like this, define props. So we have the list and then we have group mode. This is all we need for now, but we'll come later on and add one more prop. So let's start working on this. We'll start with a template because this is where the whole magic is happening. So we need a template first, which we are using for our v4. We have item and the index in list. That is because I want to list to all the items, list. Let's give the key like this. Okay. One more template. So we have an if this is, let's see, group mode. So if this is true, we are dealing with groups. Otherwise, we are dealing with items with the flat list, right? So we can say VLs like this. Nice. So let's start with the group mode. Let's define a class. This is going to have this. Let's define a div, and this is going to have a class of list box list item group like this. And this is going to have one more div inside, list box list item inner. And this is going to have I want to show the group, basically the name of the group. Okay, now that we have done this, after this main div, let's define a new template, v4. We want to loop through all the items in every single group. So we have group item. Once again, we have that index in list dot let's see, item dot items. So we need to pass the key, which is J, like this, and it's define a class. So list box list item like this. Okay. We need to define once again an inner div. So list box list item inner, basically the same class. and we want group item. Let's see, dot label like this. Nice. And now that we have done this, let's move to our VLs and let's define another div, list box, list item like this. So let's define once again that list box, list item inner like this. And all we want to do is say item dot label like this. So this is basically the bare bones of our template. Okay, and now we can move on and write all the CSS that we need. So style like this. This is gonna be scoped. So let's start list box, list item group, and list box, list item. That is because we have groups and we have simple items, right? Okay, this is gonna have a width of 100%, a height of 2.5 rem. Okay, display flex, align item center, color. This is gonna be 4A5565 like this. Border bottom 1 pixel solid and the same color that we've been using. So let's see, E5E 7EB this. Okay, and now we are done with this. So list box, list item inner. We need that inner div in order to deal with text overflows. I want to say a width of 90%, margin top bottom 0 on and X. And on the X axis, we want auto, white space, no wrap. Let's see, overflow hidden. Text overflow, we want ellipses like this. Okay, let's move further. So list box, list item, padding 0, and then 1.25 rem, and then color 03, 07, 12, like this. And now list box, list item selected. So when the item is selected, we want the background color of F3, F4, F6 like this. Okay, and list box, list item hover. I want the background color of E5, E7, EB like this. Nice. Okay, so let's go back to our list box. We have defined everything that we need. So let's see if this is working. Refresh. Okay, inspect. So there is no issue. Let's see. There is nothing showing up. Let's go to our list box at view. So we have list box list like that. Okay. Let's go back to our DualListBox.view. Of course, we have to pass the list. So this is gonna be, let's see, source and group mode. It's gonna be group mode like this. So in our listbox.view, we have defined those probes. Now we have access to the list data. Let's go back to our DualListBox.view, and right here for the other list box, we can say list. This is going to be destination, and once again, group mode. We pass that group mode. Save it. Let's go back to the browser. Nice. And you can see that the items, the group with the items is showing up. But this is not done. We still need to do some more things like for selecting items. So let's go back to our list box list.view. Now what we want to do is to define a method, a function for selecting or unselecting items. So const, let's see, toggle items like this. This is gonna take an items array of any type, and this is basically gonna do items for each. So we have the item. Okay, item dot selected. This is gonna be the opposite of item dot selected. So if it's true, it's gonna be false. If it's false, it's gonna be true. And now let's bring this into our template. So right here, let's see, on click, I want to toggle the items and I want to pass item.items. So I'm passing all the items. Now we have to do the same, let's see right here. So click, toggle items. We want to pass an array which only has one item, that group item. And basically we need to do the same for the flat list. So click, toggle items, we pass an array and only has that item value. Now we need to make a change to this so that we can deal with the class when it is selected or not. So let's see, group item selected. If this is selected, I want to have a class, otherwise something else. So if this is selected, I want to have listbox.list.item.selected. Otherwise, I want basically nothing. And let's do the same for our flat list. So right here, add that class prop, and this is gonna be item like this. Save it. Nice. So let's go back to the browser. Let's see. Of course, we missed this one. Okay, save it, refresh. Nice. So you can see that right now we can select items and we can select the entire group. And basically, this is all that we need to do in this component right now. Okay, so now there's one more thing that we do regarding this listbox component, and that is create this listbox controls component. So let's go to this file. Let's start with a template. We need a div, and I want to give this a class of list-box-controls. This is going to have two buttons. This is going to be for all. So let's give this a class of control button all, like this. Then the other button, none. So none. Now we need to define some styles. So style, this is going to be scoped like this. So list box controls. This is going to be display flex and height 100%. Now for our control button, I want the width of 100%, height 100%. Color, it's going to be white. Cursor, it's going to be pointer. Text transform, it's going to be uppercase. Font weight 700. Outline none, and border none. And now we need to define styles for each individual button. So we have control button all. Background color is going to be FA8904. And we need a hover. So let's copy this, save some time. So this is going to be hover. And for the background color, we need F54A00. And we need to do the same for all, for none. So let's see, this is gonna be none, like this, none. And for the base color, I want the 99A1AF. And for the hover, I want 6A7282, like this. Now, whenever we click on one of these buttons, I want to have the click event. So click, this is gonna call toggle, select all. This is gonna be basically true. So click, toggle, select all, and this is gonna be false. So let's define that function, const toggle select all. So select all, which is boolean, and I want to call an image, which is gonna be, let's see, select toggle select all. Let's pass that select all like this. Of course, we have to define this const image, define image. So we only have one toggle select all. Okay. Now let's copy this. That is because in my listbox.view, when I get the event right here for my listbox controls, so let's see, toggle select all. I basically want to call that toggle select all again. That is because I want to deal with this in my parent component, which is DualListBox.view. So let's paste it here, and let's take this from here and basically put it down here. Nice. Okay. So we can copy this from here. Let's go to all DualListBox.view, and right here I want to have toggle select all source. And right here, I want to have toggle select all destination like this. So let's create this. Toggle select all source is going to be that select all, which is a boolean. And I want to do something. And then we have toggle select all destination. And what I want to do is basically call another function, toggle select all. Pass, let's see, pass that select all, and then pass the source like this. And the same I want to do for our destination and pass the destination. So let's create that function, toggle select all, which is going to be select all, which is a boolean, and we want the list, which is going to be any like this for now. Okay. So what we want to do is basically say if props group mode, we want to do something else, something else. Okay. So let's see, elist.value for each. We know we have the group item like this. Okay. Group items for each. So we take the item and we say item.selected and we say select all like this. Let's do the same for the flat list. So list.value for each. You get the item.select all selected. It's gonna be select all like this. Save it. So let's see, toggle select all. Let's replace this destination like this. Save it. Let's go to the browser. You can see that the buttons are looking fine. Let's inspect just in case we have some kind of error. Let's click on this, select all. You can see that all the items from this group have been selected. Let's click on select none, and you can see that all the items have been unselected. So let's go to our app.view. Instead of group data, I want to have flat data just to test that one too. This is gonna be false. Save it, refresh. Nice. Selecting still is working. Let's click all. Let's click none. Nice. So this is working. So let's revert this back. Nice. So let's move further. So now what we have to do is to actually work on this transfer controls.view component. Basically the component from here. So let's go back to this and let's start in the template. So div, this is going to have a class of, let's think a bit, transfer controls. Then I want to paste this just to save some time. Of course, let's clean this up for now. So we have two buttons. This is these are the buttons for basically transferring the data from one list to the other. So now what we have to do is basically add the stylus. So style like this. You can see that we have those SVGs right here, and they have this class icon, and each button has this class. So just to make sure things are clear, so let's start with that transfer controls. This should be scoped like this. What we need is display flex, flex direction rule, align item center, justify content center, and I want a gap of 1 rem like this. Okay, now transfer controls button with 100%, display flex, align item center, justify content center, border radius 0.5 rem, background color we need, let's see, FF6900 orange. So cursor pointer, padding 0.75 rem, outline none, border need none. Okay, now let's see, transfer controls button hover, background color, this is gonna be, let's see, F54, let's see, A00 like this. Okay, now for the icon, so transfer controls button dot icon like this. What we need to have is a color of white, height 1.5 rem, width 1.5 rem, and then we need transform rotate 90 degrees. That is because I want this to be responsive, and by default this is gonna be for the styles gonna be for the small devices. So let's fix this scope. Now let's add a media query. So media, let's see, screen and min width. This is going to be 48 rem like this. Okay. So we have transfer controls like this. We need flex direction column like this. And now transfer controls button icon like this. We need to transform, rotate 0 degrees. Nice. So let's move further. What we need to do now is basically add some click events to these buttons. So click move to source. Let's see. Click move to destination like this. So we need to define those two functions. But before doing that, let's define some image like this. So it's going to be move to source, move to destination like this. So const move to source. So image move to source like this, and now move to destination like this. Nice. So let's go back to our DualListBox.view. So right here, move to source, move to source. Let's see, move and move to destination, move to destination like this. Okay, and we need to bring those two methods. So const move to source and const move to destination like this. Save it, and let's go back to the browser to see if everything looks fine. So you can see that we have those two buttons. So let's start working on the transfer items functionality, and I want to define a new function. So const transfer items, this is going to take two parameters. From list, this is going to be a ref, so make sure to import this. It's going to have an array of type of any. To list, once again, this is going to be a ref, and an array of type of any. This is going to be an arrow function. So if props group mode, we want to do something, otherwise something else. If we are in the flat array data. You can see that we are using group data. Okay, for this is this example, right? So let's deal with the flat data first. First, I want to get all the selected items. This is going to be from list dot value dot filter item where the item is selected, where this is true. Then I want to update. So let's see, from list dot value, I want to update this list. This is gonna be like this, and I want to only keep those items that have not been selected, right? So basically, I'm taking all the selected items, and then I'm updating the list to only have those that have not been selected. And now to list dot value, it's gonna be an array with the structure whatever we have in our to list array, and then we do something like this with the structure selected items dot map item, and we return an object with the item, with the structure the item, and we set selected to false. Nice. So now let's deal with the groups. So from list dot value dot let's see, for each group item, this is gonna have also the index, we need it. So const selected items. So group item dot items filter, we basically do the same thing, but the item has been selected. And then we update group item dot items with only those that have not been selected. So group item dot items filter, where the item selected is false, like this. If we have selected items, so dot length is greater than 0. What we want to do is basically check if we already have the group in the toList data. So let's see, let group exists. This is gonna be something like toList dot value dot filter. Let's see, like this, maybe let's see, group like this. Okay, so if group dot group is the same with the group item dot group, so if they have the same group name, okay, if the group exists, we do something, otherwise we do something else. So if the group exists, what we want to do is to say group exists dot items. It's gonna be equal with an array with the structure whatever we have in the group exists dot item, and then we add all the selected items like this dot map item. We return an object with the structure the item, and selected we set it to false like this. Okay, so this should not be filtered, this should be fine, of course, because we are looking for that group. Now if the group does not exist, we need to create it. So group exists is gonna be like this, group item dot group items. Once again, it's gonna be an array with the structure whatever we have in that selected items dot map item. We return an object with the structure the item, and we basically set the selected to false. Okay, and there's one more thing that we need to do right here. To list is gonna be like this. We have to push that group exists that we have created right now. Now that we are done with this, we need to remove that group if it doesn't have any more items. So if this is equal with 0, so let's see, from list dot value dot splice dot index, and we only need to remove the item at that index. Nice. So now that we are done, hopefully this is going to work. Let's go back to move to destination. Okay, And let's update this to actually work. So we have transfer items. So we take all the data from source and we move it to destination like this. And right here, transfer items, we take all the data from destination and we move it to source. But there's one more thing that I want to do. And basically we want to emit that event. So emit transfer like this. We want to send an object with source. This is going to be an array, and with the structure init items. So source.value props group mode. And let's do the same right here for destination like this. And I want to add one more parameter, which is going to be false. And we will talk about it in a moment. Let's do the same right here. So when we send the data to the parent component, we do not want to send that selected probe, right? This is something that we need internally. So let's go back to our init items like this right here and add with selected. This is going to be a boolean. And this is going to be true by default. So let's go to this one. If we have with selected, we have this. Otherwise, we have this. So label.it label value.it value like this. We need to do the same right here. So with selected this. Otherwise, this is going to be labeled item.value value item.value like this. And hopefully this is going to work from the first attempt. So save this. Let's go to the browser, refresh, inspect, console. Let's select everything and move it to the right side. Nice. So you can see that this is working. But I think we have a problem because it's not the event that we send out is sending basically nothing. But let's keep testing this. Nice. Nice. So it's still working. So let's try this again like this. Okay, let's give this a test. Of course, here it has to be destination, not source. Like this. Save, refresh, select everything, move it to the right side. So it seems we still have an issue. Let's see. So we do that transfer and we emit this event. So it's like this. Init items. Let's go back to this. So if this is selected, I want this, otherwise I want that. The same. Why is this not working? It's selected. Let's go back to, let's see, move to destination, console log, source.value, destination.value like this. Save. Go back to the browser, select everything and move it to the right side. So you can see that, of course, we have the data. This is working. Okay, so why is this not working right here? My bad. So look, this has to be source and then destination. Then this has to be the same source.destination. And then destination, right? Save. Let's check this. Nice. So now it's working. Let's move this one. Let's select everything and move. Let's select everything here. Let's test this with the flat data. So flat data, and this has to be false. Refresh. Let's move this too. Nice. Let's move this back. Everything from here. Everything, nothing. Okay, so this is working, right? Now, there's one more thing that we have to do, and that is to bring in TypeScript, because right now we are not actually using TypeScript the way we want. We need to enforce some kind of type safety to make sure we have the data with the proper format that we have set for group data and flat data, right? So now we can deal with TypeScript, open up source, then let's go to app.view, and you can see that we have two structures for our data. This is for how the item, the group item data looks like this. This is the structure, and this is how the flat item data looks like. So in source, create a new file, types. Let's see, types.d.ts. Let's define two interfaces. So export interface, draw a list item like this. We have label, which is a type string. And then we have value, which is any. And then we have selected, which is optional and of type boolean. Export interface, draw a list group item like this. We have group, which is a string, and then we have items, an array of that dual list item type like this. Nice. Let's go to components, DualListBox.view, and I want to replace this with something properly done with TypeScript. So first, let's define type props. And right here, I want to use a TypeScript pattern known as discriminated union. And I'm going to write it out first and then explain it later. So add a pipe, and then like this. And then we have source, draw this group item like this, an array. So make sure to import this. And then we have destination. So it's still an array of that type. And then we have group mode, which is gonna be true like this. Now add another pipe right here. Once again, source, dual list item. So an array of that type. Destination. So make sure to import this type too. Dual list item like this. And group mode, it's gonna be false. Okay. Save this. Let's change this like this. So props. So this pattern, this discriminated union pattern in TypeScript, what it actually does, well, using this group mode, the value that we actually pass to the group mode, TypeScript knows which version of the props to use. This one when group mode is true, or this one when group mode is false. So basically, this is the discriminated union pattern in TypeScript, which is really useful for our situation when we want the data to look in a way when we are using group mode, otherwise to look group mode to true, otherwise when group mode is false, to the data it's going to look different, right? Okay, and the first thing that I want to fix is this init items. We have any right here, and this is not a very good approach. That is because we can pass any data we want, and we simply can break the entire functionality of this function. And what we want to do is basically do something like this. So it's going to be an array of type dualist group item or dualist item like this. And instead of this if group mode, we can say like these items in item. So this is type narrowing in TypeScript, and this is the in operator. And this is how we check if these items exist within the item object. Then this is the of type dualist group item. Otherwise, is this of this type. Okay, and we can remove this one. We don't really need it. We have to fix everything everywhere regarding this init items function. So let's go down here. Let's remove this group mode. We don't need it, like this. Nice. So this is done, right? Now we need to move to this toggle select all, and we need to make sure this is correct with TypeScript safety. We have the list, this list right here, and this is going to be a ref. So make sure to import this from Vue. And once again, it's going to look just like this, because the list can be an array of that type or that type. And of course, we have to fix this. So what we can do is basically, let's see, cast this to the proper type. So like this group item as DualList group item, like this, but it doesn't seem to work. Of course, this has to be DualList group item. Okay, and we need to do the same right here. So item as DualList item. Nice, and you can see that all the TypeScript errors are gone. Let's go to these transfer items. First, let's copy this from here. So we have two refs. We need to change this from any to the proper type. And right here too. And we need to cast this to the proper type. So if we are in group mode, this is going to be like this as, let's see, draw list group item, and it's going to be an array. We need to cast this group as draw list group item. Okay, now we need to cast this group exist. You can see that it doesn't see that items property. So group exist like this as draw list group item. Okay, now let's go back to this. Let's go to this else. We need to cast this as dual list item, and this is gonna be an array. We need to do the same right here. Nice. So basically, we have fixed everything in this file regarding TypeScript. Now we need to move on. Let's see, with our listbox.view, we have the same basic approach for our props. So type props, it's going to be like this, list. So this is going to be DualList group item, an array, or DualList, let's see, DualList item like this, still an array of that type. And then group mode, this is going to be pull-down. And we need to replace this. So props, nice. And we need to fix the issues right here. So we can call this props list as DualList group item, and this is an array. And we can do the same right here as DualList item, and this is an array. Okay, but if we go back to our DualListBox.view, you can see that we have some issues right here with the list prop. That is because TypeScript doesn't really know which type this source is or destination is. So what we can do, use the ternary operator. So if group mode is true, then source, and we cast this as DualList group item, of course an array. Otherwise, we cast source as DualList item like this. And we basically have to do the same for our destination. So right here, destination, nice. So the errors are gone. We have fixed our listbox.view, and we basically have to do the same thing in our listbox list.view. So right here, make sure to import everything. So make sure the same thing right here that you have imported these two types. Okay, and instead of this if group mode, we can do something like let's see, like this, items in item. So we are using once again TypeScript type narrowing using this in operator, and we are looking if that items prop exists within our item object like this. And I think that is all we need. We can leave this as any right here. I don't think it's very important. And basically this is like the whole thing that we needed to do with TypeScript. So let's go back to the browser, refresh. Let's move some items. Let's check the console. So no issues. Let's move this one. Let's see. Let's move this one too. Nice. So let's go to our app.view. We have flat data and we have group mode to true to false. But if we set this to true, then TypeScript is going to cry and say, look, you need to use a different type when you are using group mode to true. Basically, we need to use a different structure for your data, right? We have flat data, but we need to use group data. And now TypeScript, it's not crying anymore. So let's go back to the browser, refresh. Let's move some items. Let's move this one back. And you can see that it's all working fine.